1492. Christopher Columbus discovered America. At least, that's what the history books teach us. But what if I told you that nearly 200 years before Columbus, white-sailed ships reached American shores? What if these ships bore the emblems of the Knights Templar and carried not just warriors and sailors, but the most sacred relic in Christian history, the Holy Grail itself? This isn't fantasy. This is a theory supported by archaeological evidence, historical documents, and physical artifacts that mainstream historians struggle to explain away. Because if the Templars really did reach America in the 14th century, if they really did hide the Holy Grail somewhere in the vast wilderness of the New World, then everything we think we know about the discovery of America, about the Templars' fate, and about the location of Christianity's most sacred treasure needs to be completely rewritten. Let's start with what we know for certain. On Friday, October 13, 1307, King Philip IV of France launched a coordinated strike against the Knights Templar. Simultaneous arrests occurred across France, catching most Templars by surprise. But here's the crucial detail that historians often overlook. Not all Templars were captured. In the port city of La Rochelle, 18 Templar ships sat in harbor on the evening of October 12th. By the morning of October 13th, when the arrests began, those ships had vanished. 18 vessels, their cargo, their crews, and whatever sacred treasures they carried, gone without a trace. Where did they go? The official historical record goes silent. These ships simply disappear from European history, never accounted for by French authorities, never documented arriving at any known port in Europe or the Mediterranean. It's as if they sailed off the edge of the world. But perhaps that's exactly what they did. Consider the evidence. In Newport, Rhode Island, stands a structure that has puzzled historians for centuries, the Newport Tower. This cylindrical stone building displays architectural features identical to medieval Templar churches in Europe. The same dimensions, the same astronomical alignments, the same construction techniques used in 12th century Templar commanderies. Carbon dating and mortar analysis suggest construction occurred well before any accepted European settlement in the area. The tower's 8 arches align perfectly with the sunset on the winter solstice, a feature common in Templar architecture, designed to mark sacred astronomical events.
But Newport isn't an isolated anomaly. In Westford, Massachusetts, carved into a rock ledge, lies what's known as the Westford Knight, a weathered but unmistakable image of a medieval knight in full armor, holding a sword with what appears to be a coat of arms. Geological analysis dates the carving to the 14th century. The heraldry matches that of a Scottish knight named Sir James Gunn, who had documented connections to Templar families and who mysteriously disappeared from European records in 1398. Then there's Oak Island in Nova Scotia, perhaps the most compelling evidence of all. This small island has been the site of treasure hunting for over 200 years, ever since 1795, when teenagers discovered a depression in the ground that led to what's now called the Money Pit. What they found was an engineering marvel, a shaft descending over 150 feet into bedrock, incorporating multiple levels of wooden platforms, clay barriers, and most remarkably, a flood tunnel system designed to fill the pit with seawater if anyone dug too deep without knowing the correct approach. This isn't colonial-era construction, this is sophisticated medieval engineering. Analysis of wood fragments recovered from the pit dates some materials to the 1300s, more than a century before Columbus. Coconut fiber, not native to North America, has been found throughout the pit, along with pieces of parchment and, most intriguingly, a stone inscribed with symbols that some researchers claim match Templar encryption systems. But why would the Templars sail to America? The answer lies in what they were carrying. When those 18 ships fled La Rochelle, they weren't empty. Historical accounts suggest the Templars possessed numerous sacred relics accumulated during their 2 centuries of operation in the Holy Land. Among these treasures, legends speak of the most precious relic of all, the Holy Grail, the cup Christ used at the Last Supper, said to possess miraculous powers. If you possessed such a treasure and knew that the King of France and the Pope had ordered your destruction, where would you hide it? Somewhere in France where royal soldiers could find it? In Scotland or Portugal where you might find temporary sanctuary but remained within reach of European powers? Or would you sail west, following navigation routes that your order's ancient documents might have described, to a land so far beyond European reach that your treasure would remain safe for centuries? The evidence suggests the Templars made exactly that choice. They didn't just flee, they evacuated their most precious possessions to the ultimate hiding place, a continent that officially didn't exist yet. And somewhere in the forests of New England, or buried beneath Nova Scotia soil, the Holy Grail might still be waiting, protected by engineering so sophisticated that 7 centuries of searching haven't been able to defeat it.
The link between the Templars and America isn't just about fleeing ships in 1307. It's about a carefully planned expedition that occurred nearly a century later, led by a Scottish prince with deep Templar connections, an expedition that left physical evidence scattered across the northeastern coast of North America that historians are only now beginning to properly understand. Henry Sinclair, Prince of Orkney, was a powerful Scottish noble whose family had provided sanctuary to Templar refugees after 1307. The Sinclairs weren't just sympathetic to the Templars, they were part of the secret network that had absorbed and continued Templar traditions after the order's official dissolution. Rosslyn Chapel, built by Henry's grandson William Sinclair, is covered in Templar symbolism and contains carvings of corn and aloe plants, New World vegetation that Europeans supposedly didn't encounter until after Columbus. But here's where it gets interesting. In 1398, Henry Sinclair launched an expedition across the Atlantic. This isn't speculation. We have a historical document called the Zeno Narrative, written by descendants of Antonio Zeno, an Italian navigator who accompanied Sinclair on the voyage. The narrative describes landings in what's clearly Nova Scotia and explorations down the northeastern American coast. For centuries, historians dismissed this account as a hoax or fantasy, but recent archaeological evidence has forced a re-evaluation. The Mi'kmaq people, indigenous to Nova Scotia, have oral traditions about a Gluskop, a bearded prince who arrived in great ships from across the sea, bringing gifts and knowledge. These traditions describe this visitor as benevolent, unlike the later European conquerors. The timing matches Sinclair's expedition. The description matches a medieval European noble. And most remarkably, Mi'kmaq petroglyphs include symbols that researchers have identified as matching medieval Scottish heraldry. But why would Sinclair undertake such a dangerous voyage? The official Zeno narrative speaks of exploration and trade, but there's compelling evidence for a different mission: securing and relocating treasures that had been hidden in America nearly a century earlier by the fleeing Templars. Perhaps the original Templar refugees had established a settlement, and by the late 1390s, that settlement needed reinforcement. Or perhaps the hiding places chosen in the panic of 1307 needed to be improved, made more secure, equipped with the sophisticated engineering we see at Oak Island. Consider the timing. By 1398, the Templar treasure had been hidden in America for 91 years. Anyone who knew the original hiding places would be dead or elderly. If the secret was to be preserved, a new expedition would be necessary. Someone had to visit the sites,
verify the treasure's security, possibly move them to better locations, and return with updated maps and information that could be passed to future generations of guardians.
This explains the Oak Island engineering. The money pit isn't 14th century construction, it's late 14th century, consistent with work done around 1398. The sophisticated flood tunnel system, the careful layering of different materials, the astronomical precision in the pit's location, this is the work of people who had time to plan, who brought engineering knowledge and materials, who weren't fleeing in panic, but executing a carefully designed concealment project. The Westford Knight carving takes on new significance in this context. Sir James Gunn, whose heraldry appears on the carving, was part of Sinclair's expedition. He apparently died during the journey and was memorialized by his companions with this carved effigy. But the carving is also a marker, a way of indicating to future Templar-connected individuals that they were on the right track, that this area of Massachusetts was significant to their search. Recent ground-penetrating radar surveys around the Westford Knight site have detected what appear to be buried stone structures. Not random glacial deposits, but deliberately placed stones forming geometric patterns consistent with Templar architectural principles. Excavation has been limited due to property restrictions, but what's been uncovered includes medieval artifacts. A piece of worked iron tested as 14th century European manufacture, and stones with markings that match symbols found on Templar sites in Europe. The Newport Tower provides further confirmation. Its construction date has been hotly debated, with skeptics arguing it was built by colonial-era settlers. But recent archaeological excavations around the tower's foundation have recovered artifacts from beneath the original construction level, including a 14th century Venetian coin and mortar samples that match European medieval compositions, not colonial-era materials. The tower's precise astronomical alignments aren't random, they mark the solstices and equinoxes in ways meaningful to Templar cosmology. What emerges is a picture not of a single desperate flight, but of an organized, multi-generational project. The Templars established a presence in America in 1307-1308. They maintained that presence in secret, probably with periodic supply runs from sympathetic European ports. Then, in 1398, a major expedition, official enough to be partially documented, yet secret enough in its true purpose, came to secure and improve the hiding places of sacred treasures, including potentially the Holy Grail itself. The question isn't whether Templars reached America before Columbus. The evidence makes that increasingly difficult to deny. The question is, what did they leave here, and where exactly did they hide it? If the Holy Grail is in America, hidden by Templars who crossed the Atlantic 600 years ago, where exactly would it be? The answer lies in decoding a complex web of symbols, architectural alignments, and geographical markers that the Templars left behind. A treasure map spread across hundreds of miles, designed to be read only by those with the knowledge to interpret it. Let's start with the most promising location, Oak Island. The money pit has consumed fortunes and lives over 2 centuries of excavation attempts. Most treasure hunters focused on digging straight down, fighting the flood tunnels and elaborate booby traps. But recent analysis suggests they've been approaching it wrong. The pit itself might not be the treasure vault. It might be the decoy, designed to waste the efforts of anyone without the complete map. Ground-penetrating radar and modern geophysical surveys of Oak Island have revealed something extraordinary, an extensive network of tunnels and chambers extending beneath the entire island. These aren't natural formations. They're deliberately constructed following geometric patterns that match sacred geometry principles used in Templar architecture. The money pit sits at one point of a larger design, possibly marking the entrance to a system where the real treasure vaults lie in protected chambers accessible only through a route that bypasses the pit's defenses entirely. But here's what makes Oak Island even more compelling as the Grail's location: its connection to the other Templar sites in North America. When you map the locations, Oak Island, the Newport Tower, the Westford Knight, and several other confirmed medieval European artifacts found in New England, they form a pattern, not a random scatter, but specific geometric relationships. The distances between sites encode mathematical ratios, the golden mean, Fibonacci sequences, the same proportions that appear in Templar churches across Europe. This suggests the sites aren't independent. They're markers in a larger navigational system. The Newport Tower, with its precise astronomical alignments, serves as a reference point. On specific dates when the sun or stars align with the tower's architecture, they would point to other locations in the network. It's a treasure map that uses the sky itself as a key, unchanging across centuries, readable only by those who understand the astronomical knowledge the Templars possessed. Recent research is focused on what's called the Templar Cross Formation, 4 sites in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Nova Scotia that, when connected, form a perfect Templar cross shape spanning hundreds of miles. Oak Island sits at the center of this cross. The probability of this being coincidental is astronomically small. The Templars weren't just hiding treasure. They were encoding its location in the landscape itself, using a system so sophisticated that it's taken modern GPS and computer analysis to fully recognize it. But there's another possibility that researchers are increasingly taking seriously. The Grail might not be in one location. The Templars were master strategists who understood redundancy and risk management. They might have separated their treasures, placing different sacred relics at different sites within the network. The Holy Grail might be at Oak Island's deep chambers. The Ark of the Covenant might be buried beneath the Westford Knight site. Other treasures might lie in locations we haven't yet identified, waiting at points where the geometric patterns point, but where no modern excavation has occurred.
The Mi'kmaq traditions add another layer to understanding the hiding place. Their oral histories speak of the Gluskap visiting a sacred island and performing ceremonies at a place where the earth holds treasures that must sleep until the right time comes. They describe this location as being protected not just by man-made defenses, but by spiritual guardians. Interpretations vary on whether this means the island itself is sacred or whether the Templars left behind members of their order to guard the site, establishing a presence that integrated with local populations. DNA analysis of some Mi'kmaq family lines has produced surprising results. A small percentage show European genetic markers dating to the 14th century, suggesting intermarriage between Templar settlers and indigenous populations. If the Templars left permanent guardians in America, training each generation to protect the secret and pass on knowledge of the hiding place, then the complete map to the Grail's location might exist not in documents or carvings, but in oral traditions maintained within specific Native American families for 6 centuries. This would explain why, despite centuries of searching, no one has successfully recovered the Oak Island treasure. They've been looking for physical clues, maps, documents, inscriptions that can be read and followed. But the final key might be knowledge held by people, passed down through bloodlines, waiting for a time when the world is ready for what the Templars hid. The Holy Grail in America? The evidence grows stronger every year. More medieval artifacts are discovered. More connections between sites are recognized. More pieces of the geometric puzzle fall into place. We're closer than ever to answering the question not of whether the Grail is here, but of exactly where and whether we're finally ready to find it.